The gas station had always been my solace during the graveyard shifts, a haven of flickering fluorescent lights and the smell of stale coffee. That night, as I locked up the station, after a particularly grueling shift, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The desolate back roads outside were shrouded in darkness, the only source of illumination being the eerie orange glow from the setting sun. As I drove down the winding path, my exhaustion weighed heavily on me. But then, there she was, a silhouette in the gloom, her thumb outstretched in desperate need of a ride. Against my better judgment, I pulled over. The hitchhiker climbed into my car, her presence sending an involuntary shiver down my spine. Her long, dark hair hung like a curtain, concealing most of her face. She muttered something about needing a ride to the nearest town, her voice barely more than a whisper. I nodded, trying not to make eye contact. As we drove in silence, I couldn't help but steal glances at her in the rearview mirror. Her eyes held an unnatural glint, a phosphorescent glow that seemed to pierce through the darkness of the car's interior. I cleared my throat and asked about her destination, hoping to break the eerie silence. She remained silent, her gaze fixed on some distant point outside the window. The air inside the car grew colder with every passing mile, and an unsettling feeling gnawed at the pit of my stomach. I checked the rear-view mirror again, and this time she met my gaze with those otherworldly eyes. My heart raced as I demanded she tell me where we were going. Her response was a slow, chilling turn of her head, her face contorted into a horrifying grin. "We're going where you can never leave," she whispered, her voice a haunting melody that sent chills down my spine. Panic surged through me and I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching in protest. I leaped out of the car, not looking back, as I stumbled into the woods that bordered the road. My breath came in ragged gasps, my heart pounding in my chest. Behind me, I could hear her laughter echoing through the trees, a sound that seemed to transcend the boundaries of reality. I kept running until I stumbled onto another road, my frantic waving eventually catching the attention of a passing car. They pulled over and I climbed in, my words tumbling out incoherently as I begged for help. The good Samaritans who rescued me from that haunted back road couldn't comprehend the terror in my eyes, but they agreed to take me to the nearest town. I never saw that hitchhiker again, and I tried my best to forget her chilling words and her haunting otherworldly presence. But the memory of that night, the night I picked up the haunting hitchhiker, still haunts my dreams. A reminder that some back roads are better left untraveled, some encounters better left unexplored. As I drove down the desolate back roads, I couldn't help but feel a growing unease. I had decided to take this route to save some time on my road trip, but it was becoming clear that I might have made a grave mistake. The sun was setting, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch out like grasping fingers onto the cracked asphalt. The dense forest on either side of the road felt like it was closing in on me. My GPS had gone silent a while ago, leaving me to navigate the winding roads on my own. There were no other cars in sight, and the occasional rusted sign warned of sharp curves and falling rocks. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. It was when I saw the figure for the first time that my heart began to race. I spotted it standing by the side of the road, just beyond the glow of my headlights. A tall, shadowy figure, seemingly human, but something about it was deeply unsettling. Its pale, gaunt face was obscured by a hood, and its limbs hung limply by its sides. I slowed down, my eyes glued to the rearview mirror. As I continued down the road, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being followed. I told myself it was just my imagination running wild, that I was tired from hours of driving, but the sense of dread persisted. Minutes passed, and I saw it again. The figure had moved further down the road, still on the side, but it was closer now. It made no attempt to flag me down or ask for help, and that's what sent shivers down my spine. It was just there, watching, waiting. I sped up, trying to put some distance between me and the ominous figure, but it was no use. Each time I glanced in my rearview mirror, there it was, a silent, menacing presence. I couldn't tell if it was the same figure or if there were multiple, but it was always there, lurking. Panic set in as I realized I had no cell phone signal out here, and there were no houses or businesses in sight. I considered turning back, but the thought of driving past those figures again made my skin crawl. I had no choice but to continue forward. The road twisted and turned, the trees closing in on me as the darkness deepened. My headlights occasionally caught glimpses of other shadowy figures lurking just out of reach. Fear gnawed at me, and I pushed my car faster, the engine roaring as I desperately tried to outrun whatever haunted this forsaken back road. Hours seemed to stretch into eternity as I drove on, the figures still haunting my every turn. Finally, I saw a faint glimmer of light in the distance. My heart leaped with hope. I pushed my car even harder, racing toward the light. As I approached, I saw the comforting glow of a gas station. I pulled in, my hands trembling as I parked. I rushed inside, gasping for breath, and the attendant gave me a curious look. "What's got you so spooked?" he asked. I tried to find the words to explain, but I knew it sounded crazy. The figures on the back road, the sense of being watched, it was all too surreal. I knew one thing for certain: I would never take a shortcut on a back road again. The memory of those eerie figures would haunt me for the rest of my life.